What's up, it's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to the Conversation, the Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with my next guest, who was taller than me. So shout out to all the short kings out there. You stand a chance of being great too one day. But shout out to all the tall people. That's the inside joke, because what we've been talking about in our studio is this man who needs not much of an introduction. He is tall in stature and tall in the delivery of the good films and content that he keeps giving us. And he is giving us this incredible film, The Great Hits, which is such a unique concept. So I can't wait to get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, incredible film director Benson. What's happening, man?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me. And I'm only like 2 inches taller than you. So like, let's not say I'm tall in stature.
Bro, let's give you the advantage, man.
I'll take the advantage.
Those 2
for
inches,
the first
man.
time in my life, I'll take it.
That matters, man. That matters for all the short kings out there.
Yeah.
You know, people are actually trying to get their legs and stuff stretched and broken to extend. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I've heard like surgeries on the knees and the legs, So
I think that's ridiculous.
I agree with you.
For somebody like you who capture lives through the narrative of film, like, what do you think that infers? Not that you're a psychologist, but just...
it's a good question. I mean, look, people have a right to do whatever they want to do. So if you want to be 2 inches taller and get surgery, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in terms of accepting yourself and self-acceptance, which is part of what this movie's about, weirdly, I think that's an important thing that we reconcile with our entire life.
That is, but I think also, too, when you think about it, they're only gaining a few inches. So it's not like they're going from like 5'2" to 6'4", right?
True,
And they'll be playing basketball
True.
in the NBA the next day. And so I'm always amazed when people are willing to go the extra mile. And like you, I support people doing cosmetic surgeries. I support that. I support any touch-ups you want to do. If you want to get fillers, you want to get lipo, like I'm all for that. But I'm just thinking about the extreme of like breaking limbs and tendons in order just to gain 2 inches.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah.
It's intense, and it's an intense choice.
It is. I think about this too. So I'm obviously, audience, I'm bald, but there is this now advancement in hair technology where they can do essentially like not hair transplants, but like, for lack of better words, hair weaves for guys now. And I remember fighting so hard to fight my balding, Ned. I would go to Just for Men and Bosley and try and get the hair implants. They told me I didn't qualify because I had lost already too many follicles. And so I think about from time to time, would I do one of those like man weave sets, right? And I've come to reconcile that I wouldn't do it. I'm very comfortable with my look, but I can understand how people who have image dynamics would be willing to go through that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you look great.
Thank you, Ned.
So you don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
So, but that's all I got to say about that.
Well, you being vulnerable, I'm putting you on the spot. You're not here to talk about any of this, by the way. But your hair is receding. Have you ever thought about that?
No, I'm just kind of like, let it happen. You
Yeah.
get older and things happen, and it is what it is. So
I think the reason I'm comfortable asking these questions is because going in front of film is all about being vulnerable in front of the camera.
True.
Right? And as a film director, you expose so many vulnerabilities of actors. Talk to me about like how you think about vulnerability, like when you're on set and when you're thinking about writing characters.
I think it's extremely important, like not only from my side in terms of just gaining trust with the actor, but also like in terms of what and who they are as people. I think when I met Lucy Boynton, Justin Min, David Cornsweat, Austin Crute, each one of them has a comfortability with being vulnerable. And that is a quality that I really sort of search for in the actors I work with, people who are willing to be more raw and open, not only as actors, but as people, so we can really get to know each other and understand what we're trying to do together and apply that to the story. It grounds it in a personal kind of way. So very important.
Do you try and make them feel uncomfortable in their vulnerability, or do you allow it just to play out as it is to get the authentic?
Yeah. I think for me, it's about creating the most comfortable space, a space that feels safe, and that everybody feels kind of comfortable in terms of being exactly who they are in this space in order to do their best work. So I'm trying to remove self-consciousness. I'm trying to remove, overthinking and kind of this idea, creating this idea or space of, vulnerability, for lack of a better word, like what you're talking about.
I love the idea of removing self-consciousness. Go a little further about what you mean by this. I think I never heard that phrase like that, and I think that's beautiful.
It's not. I mean, first of all, that's impossible because we're always self-conscious to
Yeah,
a degree.
but
But I think it's just. I want to really. I like to focus on, getting into this place where you can let go of your anxiety and let go of your own neuroses, and for myself too. And that way, we're focused on just doing our best work and finding the scene and really finding this vulnerable place where we're tapping into what the scene is, or tapping into what the story is, or who the character is.
Is that why you chose to be behind the camera versus in front of the camera?
I'm horrible in front of a camera.
Yeah.
I literally, if you put a camera on me, literally I freeze. The self-consciousness it just becomes very apparent. So I actually grew up in theater and was an actor for a little while. And I think because I'm so self-conscious, I couldn't get through it. So I found kind of that I was more comfortable writing and directing and sort of being behind and trying to actually, it's almost like a projection of myself onto them. But because I was so self-conscious, I want to create this space that removes that self-consciousness for other people.
I think it's interesting. That you are capturing vulnerability versus being vulnerable. And I think that's such a choice that people make when it comes to that, right? Even myself, being on television and being on radio, it's different than acting because I'm playing myself on a daily basis. And what I'm being judged on is my intellect, right? I'm being judged on, do I know this topic well enough? I'm being judged on how do I sound in conversation in response to my subjects that I'm interviewing. Do I spar well, with that conversation? And the mob is fickle. And the mob, just as much mob being the public or fans or consumers, as much as they love to hype you up and to celebrate your rise, they love a good downfall story at the same time. And so I always have to reconcile this moment of validation in the beginning of all my commentary that I am enough, right? I am smart. I know whatever I say is for the moment, and I deal with it as such. There's no edits, there's no cuts, there's no redos.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a beautiful way of working, and you're putting yourself out there. And I think, same thing in a film setting too. You're trying to do or recreate that similar context.
You were in a smile button. I'm just curious, is that an intentional choice with the smile button that you have?
Yeah. So in the movie, we have a slip mat that's on one of the record players, the Technics record player. And this was given to me by DJ Harvey, who was one of the musical consultants on the movie. And,
has any symbolism to that?
Yeah, just it's sort of he's like an underground DJ, and just it's part of that whole kind of fun dance scene.
I used to wear, I was part of a campaign. I was an undergrad where we had a high button. And it was to encourage students on campus to be more collegial and to build community. And so the idea when you would see the button, the campaign around it was just to communicate and say hi to your fellow person, if you will.
For sure.
So I always think buttons are very intentional. But let's just get to the movie.
Yeah.
Greatest hits. I think time travel is a difficult genre of film to do. I think it can go wrong in a lot of ways if you don't get it just right, because it can be confusing with the jumping. But I love that you use music in order to create time and time travel. Talk to us about that choice again. I guess I'm just going with the theme of choice and decisions that are intentional.
Yeah, I think, looking at when we listen to a song, at least for myself, I've always been haunted by music. I mean, music is just this crazy nostalgia machine for me. So it really does throw me back to so many specific moments in my life. If I think of Outkast's albums, Danconia, they played on the steps at Columbia my senior year in college just before I graduated. If I listen to, Award Tour by Tribe Called Quest, I'm in high school. If I listen to Kid A by Radiohead, I'm just out of college. Avalon by Roxy Music reminds me of my mom, so I think so specifically. So I was so interested in this idea of a song as a time travel mechanism. And I read this book by Oliver Sacks called Musicophilia, which is about how the brain interacts with music, and plays with ideas like musical hallucinations and synesthesia. And so those two things kind of combined gave me this concept of like, all right, well, if you have the length of a song to go revisit your past, what would that be? And I started to think about relationships and love, and created this character Harriet, who essentially like is so afflicted by music emotionally that it does throw her back to this relationship that she's trying to move on from, for lack of a better word.
When you were thinking about the storyboarding, kind of aspects, like how did you think about the specific genres of music and the songs that you were using to reflect and emote the feeling of that scene?
So what we wanted to do, and what I think we applied to the movie, was that the songs are actually lyrically speaking the subtext of the scenes in the story. So like if you have Leon Haywood, Don't Push It, Don't Force It, in that scene, like her friend Harriet's friend Morris is trying to explain to her like, stop forcing this. And so I think the music is helping tell the story. And the same thing with This Is the Day by the it's like the opening scene takes you back to this first moment where it all happened, which is kind of the catalyst for the rest of the movie. Same thing with like Make Me Believe in You, Patty Joe. It's like, again, the friend Morris is like, help me understand what you're going through. So I think it was really looking at songs that lyrically, even Feel the Music at the Bears in Space disco. It's like all these things were helping the storytelling lyrically.
I think it's interesting because usually what I love about film, and I always pull out music in film. So when I think about film and I do my reviews or critique, I'm always thinking about the music and how the music is used. So I think music oftentimes is a secondary or tertiary character because it emotes, right? It can really, I'm going to use your word, haunt. I love that word. You've been good with word choice today.
Oh, thank you.
It can really haunt the film or the scene that's driving. But I think what's unique, what you have done with this film, which is rare, is that the lyrics actually have become a secondary character. Where normally the lyrics aren't the secondary character, but it's more about the melodic line of how that the music makes you feel in a movie in that moment of a scene, but never using the lyrics as much as to advance the storyline. That's brilliant.
I mean, I don't know if it's brilliant, but I think it was definitely an idea.
Technique.
Yeah, it was. I think to your point, and I love that you said it. It's that, yeah, music and songs are a character in the movie. Like that was really important to us because, I think even just in the pre-production process and the rehearsal process, like we were, the actors and I were sharing a lot of songs. The music supervisor were sharing a lot of songs, and we were finding character and story through those songs, and really like the music and the soundscape are doing a lot of the work for the movie, not only in terms of mood creation but storytelling. So yeah, it was really important to us.
I also like to focus on editors in a film, and so I'm really curious about the thought process of how do you balance making the time travel not be too confusing for the audience. Is that something you guys do in post, or are you thinking about that in the pre-production?
Yeah, we're thinking
or aspect of it.
It's both, but really we had to think and conceive it in pre-production. We had to know exactly what we were doing on the day. So what I wanted to do was film time travel practically, like on set with the use of cameras, special effects, like things that were tangible to us and that we could control with the camera and in the camera, as opposed to like completely with special effects in post. So, using lens flares, rigging the chair as a dolly, putting body cameras on Lucy. So like you were feeling all of these things and then flaring the lens with flashlights and stuff like that, doing whatever we could practically and tangibly to create something that felt grounded as opposed to CG that would sort of feel false. And then all those elements that we shot, we then utilized with the VFX team in post to sort of enhance that look, for lack of a better word.
You must enjoy a challenge, because I feel like time travel films or television are very difficult to do. Was this something you embrace a challenge? Is time travel something you've always enjoyed? I know you enjoy music, and music brings you back to place, right? That's from a music perspective. Just as a film consumer, was that something you've always enjoyed? Was time travel?
Yeah, I like time travel, but it just felt like this movie. I mean, music really was the kind
impetus,
of
yeah.
medium and the impetus for, time travel. I think, it this emotional idea of sometimes we're so affected by something that it manifests in this crazy way. And I think Harriet's emotions are so intense that it manifests in this way that it does actually throw her back in time. And, I think the beauty of the story is that when she meets David in the present, like, she comes with this affliction, she comes with this baggage, and he's the one who's open enough and vulnerable enough, to bring it back to that word, to really accept her for who she is. And once he does, it's this gift of the Magi. It's like, oh, someone really sees me and accepts me, and we are, that allows me to let go of my past and be open to something new, which I think is a crazy gift, because it shows us we have the capacity in our hearts to love more than one person and to carry more than one relationship and more than one great love in our lives. And I think that's the big story that I wanted people to leave, or walk away with. But in terms of the challenge, I think anybody who makes movies, this is an act of insanity. Like, like it's not just for me, it's for any director or filmmaker or, anybody who works on a movie. It's this, exercise in controlling chaos, and whatever your concept is, whether it's time travel or not, like, you spend a year or 2 years in your life, like, hyper focused on this one thing, and then you put it out in the world. And it's fun and collaborative and insane at the same time. So.
Now, Benson, know that I will watch anything that you create, because your use of words is fantastic. I couldn't think of a better way as someone that has loved editing and the editing process. I have to know when to stop too as well. And I think ending on "it's an act of chaos," I think is a brilliant way to end this conversation and make people want to go see this film, Greatest Hits. How can folks watch the Greatest Hits?
It's in select theaters right now, but you can watch it on Hulu or Disney Plus in the Hulu tab on April 12th.
Thank you for your gift of vulnerability and for the gift of music that you're giving us through film, and letting us know that we do have the capacity to love multiple things and multiple people at the same time, which can be quite contrarian. And so thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great talking with you, Matt.
Great talking with you.
Until next time, folks. Peace.